welcome to the Drum Predictions 2022 Festival and this session, Let the Cookie Crumble, AdTech Looks to the Future with AI. I'm Jenny Baker, Assistant Editor at The Drum, and here to discuss these 2022 predictions with me, I'm joined by a fantastic panel of experts. They are Ben Murphy, UK Managing Director at Quantcast, Stacey Perry, Chief Digital Officer, M6, and Nick Flood, Global Ad Product and Revenue Operations Director at Future. So what's coming up today? Well, we're here to discuss why it's time to let the cookie crumble. We'll be looking at some of the most robust and viable cookieless solutions for 2022 and predicting that those who switch on to AI and start testing early will reap considerable competitive advantages. So as the world steps into 2022, we are, of course, now 1 year closer to Google's long-awaited deprecation of the third-party cookie. So I guess to kick the session off today, what are the biggest opportunities ahead with this landmark shift for digital advertising? And why should advertisers be willing to let the cookie crumble now? And Ben, I'll come to you first to kick us off.
Sure. Hi, guys. First of all, I think the cookie's been crumbling for years. So Safari actually started blocking third-party cookies in 2017. So I think the great opportunity for the industry now is to build a better, more privacy-first approach that, effectively delivers outcomes for advertisers whilst respecting consumer privacy. So we're not starting from scratch. It's something that companies have been looking at for a number of years now because we've had these issues in other browsers. But actually, we're really looking at it positively now because, technology like machine learning and the fact that you can look at other sources of data outside of the third-party cookie, like first-party cookies, obviously, contextual signals, identifiers, cohorts, combined with the likes of geo-type. There's so many different data sources, and the machine learning that we're finding out now, the technology is able to make sense of all of that messy data and make really, really accurate predictions. So I think, the future's bright.
Great. And Stacey, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with Ben on that. I think at M6, we actually welcome the change to the cookieless environment, not least because, we are an audience first agency. We welcome any ways to be more accurate, more ethical with how we reach people. So, we don't believe the end of cookies means the end of targeted advertising. In fact, quite the contrary, we believe it's really great opportunity to leverage data in new and meaningful ways. And the solutions that are coming to the fore now will help to build, we believe, closer relationships with customers. So I think there's one really big opportunity, and I think that is that brands can really take the time to really focus on the customer, so their wants and their needs, and then use the cookieless environment to be more relevant, more engaging, and ultimately more valuable.
Great. And Nick?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jenny. So yeah, it's an interesting question, and one I've been asked multiple times over the years. Working in, obviously, a publisher that's as Ben said, has had to deal with this for many years. So through Apple's ITP, it's kind of baked into our business that some platforms you don't have 3P cookies today, and we've learned to live with that, and have really advanced contextual solutions that kind of get around that and still allow us to do amazing targeting. I think it's inevitable. It's going to happen. It's, in my view, a bit of a shame that it was delayed last year because we were having all these amazing conversations with ad tech companies and agencies about getting a lot closer from a relationship perspective. And I think publishers will do well out of it, especially premium publishers that have really high percentages of endemic audiences in the spaces that agencies and clients need to reach, and ad tech companies at that point. So if you think about technology as a good example, where we might reach 1 in 2 individuals in the UK, 1 in 3 in the US. If an advertiser, say Sony is a good example, or Samsung, want to reach a large percentage of those users, they can do with a single buy rather than having to do it on the open web. And of course, that benefits publishers because it's a single transaction, greater targeting, high yielding, and moving clients up the waterfall, of course. So I think it's a positive thing, and I would encourage more of those amazing conversations that were happening between agencies and publishers when it was first announced that Chrome was deprecating third-party cookies last year to pick up again, because it's gone a little bit quiet. And I think we've not got that long to go. And publishers have started to get ready, and we are definitely at Future with our audience data platform Aperture. We're in a fantastic position, I think, to bring together all our amazing pots of data, so across 150 domains, and start to bring them into a platform that makes them easily accessible to agencies and clients. and that's kind of our goal, right? And we've developed and deployed a number of technologies to make sure we're ready with kind of whatever happens. Yeah, it's a good thing, and we just need to get on with it now.
Yeah, we just need to get on with it. So in building a robust first-party data strategy, what are the most effective ways of doing this? I'd love to get an understanding of what approaches you're taking on this front, and have you seen any early successes?
Yeah, I mean, we've really found it's really important to audit and understand what first-party data is accessible and available for utilization in media in particular. And that may sound really simple, but it's very possible that an advertiser has high volumes of data, but it's not opted into, for example, which just makes it basically impossible to use. So on the flip side, we've got advertisers that actually don't have any or very little first-party data. So that's not unusual in some sectors, like FMCG, for example. So our role there has been really to establish how do we best utilize on-site data, how do we model lookalikes from seed data, or going back to bare bones of how do we help them with the actual CRM strategy. So where we have an advertiser, though, who's really advanced in the area of data, we're looking at how we apply more sophisticated modeling of audiences, based on an aggregation of data sets ahead of any activation, and that's cookieless or otherwise. So lots of different ways. Very much depends, where our client is, what data they have, and we've really taken on board the consultative approach in that respect, above and beyond any kind of media offering that we do with our clients.
Brilliant. And Nick, what sort of approaches are you taking?
Yeah, I think just as Stacey mentions, you need a raft of solutions, right? So at Future, we have everything from our basic kind of user segmentation. So contextual buyers will still be there forever, and is an amazing thing, of course. But as we move more and more towards audience buyers, we have our standard kind of segmentation library. So if you want to reach automotive or tech intenders, we've got segments that cater for that. As Stacey also mentioned, we've got the ability to generate lookalikes and use seed audiences to build up audience profiles for those advertisers that maybe aren't as advanced. And then all the way to the other end, we've also got clean room technology in place that if we do have an advertiser that has amazing sets of data that wants to do one-to-one matching and targeting and propensity modeling and various other bits and pieces, we've got that technology in place through the Aperture platform. I think the one thing that kind of really helps us here at Future is that last year we acquired GoCo Group, which includes GoCompare, right? So we've got access to millions of records of highly kind of transient data that's coming through the system with all that amazing information that's collected as you do travel or home or kind of car insurance quotes. So it really does put us in a fantastic position to be able to activate that. And that was one of the reasons, of course, behind the acquisition. So I think publishers, no matter your size or scale or vertical that you operate in, need a raft of platforms. And some are very embryonic. So clean rooms are still at that start, I would say, and Google are coming out with their own solutions through PPID and various other bits and pieces. And you've got amazing other businesses like Permative and Infosum operating in the clean room space. You've got the ID brigade, as I kind of call them, so the raft of like LiveRamp with ATS and ID5 and various other platforms, starting to make a march and starting to embed themselves in agencies and publishers, of course. And then, of course, you've got the publisher's own data. So I think a lot of it depends on how advanced the agencies and clients are in their media buy. And it's a publisher's job, of course, to make sure you can transact in whatever ways possible. So that's kind of my role to make sure we're fully catered, no matter how Stacey wants to spend money with me.
Brilliant. And Ben, from your perspective?
Yeah, I agree with the guys. I think an effective first-party strategy basically has to take into account the entire data lifecycle. So from collection and consent to management and storage, right through to activation and measurement. You kind of need to have, your strategy needs to take into account all of the elements. And so what we've been doing at Quantcast, we've tried to build products that help our publisher and advertiser clients in all of these areas. So Quantcast Choice was a product we launched for GDPR. It's our consent management platform that effectively collects billions of consent signals for advertisers and publishers. Quantcast Measure, which was our first product to market back in 2009, is our measure and validation with publishers that helps drive the signals for targeting for advertisers. And then finally, we launched in the last 18 months our platform, Quantcast platform, which is basically the activation element of trying to execute your first party strategy. So it's a first party only platform. Today you can actually target cookieless environments as well, which is quite exciting. But yeah, I think you need to look at all aspects of the life cycle of the data.
Sorry, can I just jump in on that point as well? Because I think it's a really important piece is the collection of consent. So coming back to some of the stuff we were saying at the start in terms of kind of the areas that we operate in, I think the privacy first bit and the piece around consent is highly important that a lot of people forget. So just making sure the information you use is consented, of course, and you have the appropriate mechanisms in place to use it. But it really does put those companies that start to collect those consent strings and permissions into a really strong advantage point, actually, because you're in the relationship with the customer. So in our case, hundreds of millions of customers a month come into our properties. We control that relationship, and then it's down to us how we wish to activate them. So I think for the UK publishing and global publishing landscape, that consent and that value exchange between a user and a publisher is particularly strong, especially around paywalls or data walls, as publishers are starting to move into that space as well. What is the user going to get from the service that I'm offering? And you've really seen in the last couple of years, publishers have really run ahead with that, making sure they collect data, and you've got some amazing examples of amazing paid for services out there as a great example. So I think we'll see a lot more of that from all swathes of kind of publishers and clients as well, right? Collecting data for competitions or giveaways. It's really, really important and not to be forgotten.
It's interesting. We've got three of you coming from sort of different points of view. How do you see the dynamics of the advertiser, agency, publisher, tech vendor relationship changing this year? Stacey, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, I think we're going to see even more collaboration this year. We've always been very close to our partners. With Quantcast, we've done some really interesting cookieless testing with those guys recently. We've also been testing clean room solutions, Habu Infosum, etc., and a number of other vendors where we can either build lookalike models or access first-party audiences, kind of what Nick was talking about. So, we really value our partners' input in terms of answering advertiser challenges. And now I think given the sort of enhanced focus on data, if you like, and how this needs to be applied at a publisher level, we'll need to work together to make sure that advertisers are really clear on what they're buying, how practically any cookieless solutions will work, and how technology enables activation. And I think there's we need to reassure our advertisers that they retain ownership of their data, and that it's only being used, appropriately in an appropriate environment. So I would say a collective responsibility to the end user to be transparent, but also, responsibility to brands to be measured when it comes to testing versus their existing activities, and put solutions in front of them that will maintain, that direct connection with customers. I think once a third-party cookie departs, I think the only options left for the digital ecosystem are going to be collaboration, testing, iteration, to really find the best solutions for all parties, really.
So as Stacey said, I'm quite lucky that, at Quantcast we work with both Nick and Stacey in from an advertiser and publisher perspective. But personally, I believe that the best outcomes come from partnerships anyway. So I think as technology takes a greater role in the advertising industry, basically the agency, advertiser, publisher, tech vendor relationship has to become tighter. The reality is it's got to be anchored in robust solutions coming from all parties, collaboration and mutual understanding of what needs to be done. But like, as Stacey said, M6 and MFUs have really lent into, some of the new products that we're bringing to market are happy to kind of fail fast, if that makes sense. Like they're actually working with us rather than maybe in years gone by, it's like, this has to work. Otherwise, there's going to be an issue with the client. I think there's much more openness from agencies like Stacey's, whereby let's test this out, this work together. Let's show clients that there's a way forward. And the same goes to working with the likes of Future as well. We wouldn't be able to kind of produce some of these products without the test and learn capabilities that we do through these partnerships. So I think there's going to be a lot more of that. And in terms of tech partnerships, ultimately, we got to mitigate the deprecation of the third-party cookies. So working through solutions with tech partners is really important, and tech partners that understand the increasing regulations around consumer privacy as well, because I don't think that's done either. That's going to continue to evolve. So yeah, we're lucky enough that actually I think there's even more collaboration that's been going on through 2021. I think that'll just continue through 2022.
And Nick, from the publisher viewpoint, how do you see the dynamics changing?
Yeah, so sorry to be boring, but more of the same, really. It's about, I should say something controversial. It's about collaboration, and as I said, I think some of those conversations died off a little bit when the cookie news got pushed back a bit. So we're starting to see more of those. I'm starting to see more of those emails coming to my inbox now about, let's have a chat about this potential solution we'd love to test, as Ben mentioned, and we've got a little bit of test budget to use here. And I think agencies are now starting to find their feet a bit as to how they're going to articulate it to clients, and clients are asking the right questions, which is really good. And I think to Stacey's point, it's about the collaboration to make sure that pubs and agencies have solutions driven by tech that allows us to go to clients with an effective approach. And some of it won't work, quite frankly. So I'm skeptical about some areas of it, but some will really win through, right? And I think clean rooms are a great example of an amazing concept, but technically quite challenging. So we're just seeing like smatterings of that starting to come through now, and some clients only want to use kind of smart room tech, which is amazing. But very few publishers can support it, and very few agencies can support it as well. So I think there'll be a myriad of different solutions, and I think publishers will line up behind the agencies and the ad tech companies as to where the money comes through. So it's our job to make sure that happens. We have a number of direct integrations with agency trading groups now as well. So skipping some of the kind of hops that you'd need to go through, the middlemen as such. And I think we'll also see more of that as the big kind of agency holding groups want to do kind of big transactional deals with agencies, which is really exciting. It just makes everyone's life a bit easier. And I think still publishers are trying to drive value up the waterfall, and that's kind of our aim here, right? So we have a massive auction business, but a bigger first party and premium programmatic business. So it's my job to try and move clients outside of open auction, into those more direct channels where we can have a proper conversation. We can offer additional targeting capabilities and creative services and creative solutions and what have you, and obviously develop a better relationship where we can drive more response than open auction. So I think the conversations will continue, and this is perfectly timed actually, because we've not got that much not that much longer to go, right? And months pass quickly in this industry, and there's still loads of regulatory clouds over what's going to happen, and questions around consent and the IB framework, and what Google are going to do, and various other bits and pieces. So some more clarity across the industry will be brilliant, and it really depends on industry trading bodies to make that stuff happen. So the IB Tech Lab, as a key driver for that, I think it's going to be pivotal in this conversation. And then UK bodies like the AOP as a good example, bringing publishers together to have a single view as to where we stand as a group.
Great. And I think, as you've all kind of said, it's going to require a raft of solutions. There's not one answer here. AI, we've got to touch on it. One of the most hyped technologies in recent years, but also one of the most effective in determining future behavior. If a marketer or advertiser is not already using AI-driven solutions, what are they missing out on? And, why is it so important to embrace innovation as we enter this kind of next chapter of the open internet? Ben, I'll come to you.
Basically, quite simply, I think they're missing out on insights and productivity gains because, as you say, AI is one of the most effective technologies to determine future behavior. And so the insights that you can get in real time are really, really great. What consumers want, what they need, where they are, where they're looking for it. All of that information that AI is able to predict just means that, you can gain better outcomes. And we've been using AI at Quantcast for a number of years, and now it's becoming really a strategic advantage because with the deprecation of the third-party cookie, if you haven't got AI or if you're not using AI, you're going to really, really struggle to operate in the digital marketing space. And so you have to really start to embrace it and understand where it's a buzzword with partners and where there's actual real robust technology behind the partner that you're working with. And so I think it's important for advertising in particular to learn a little bit more about what AI is and what types of AI they need to to deliver their marketing messages, because, as I say, it is a buzzword, as you mentioned at the top, and it has been overhyped. And like anything in this industry, when something's overhyped, I'm sure Stacey gets lots of people coming from different companies saying exactly the same thing. And so I think just question it and start to figure out where companies really do have robust technology.
Great. And Stacey?
Yeah, I think one of the most exciting areas of AI and machine learning is how it can help to improve our understanding of customers and predict insights, like Ben was saying, particularly where there are gaps in data sets, which I think we can expect when we get into cookieless, particularly out in the open web. So, for example, AI can offer ID resolution, whereby user identity graphs can be pieced together using slithers of data so that we can integrate and understand the user across, I guess, what will become an even more fragmented marketplace. I think we're going to see contextual advertising making a comeback too. So, AI, I guess, could enable that next generation of contextual targeting, so be more sophisticated in terms of sentiment analysis and the integration of real-world data. So really providing richness without cookies. And then I think the final area would be measurement. I think we do depend on cookies for a lot of our measurement, and therefore AI and machine learning for conversion modeling or for attribution, I think is likely to become more critical if we're going to successfully track our activities for our clients in the longer term.
Yeah, ad tech and clients probably slightly ahead of publishers in this space. So we use machine learning across the business in various aspects, and starting to use AI a bit now. But I think it's the technology solutions we utilize that use those tools right that makes our life easier. So Stacey mentions kind of measurement. I think measurement's a really important point, and with some of the advances in like Google Analytics 4 is a good example about assisted conversions and model conversions. You can start to see how Google is a good example of starting to make marketers' jobs a bit easier in terms of how we convert, and so that's a big part of our business because we have to go compare, and we're a big spender through paid search is a good example. I think machine learning, and if you think about cohorts and kind of model cohorts especially, is a huge part of the publisher's arsenal. So if it's scale or kind of intimate audiences that advertisers want to achieve, that allows that, and platforms like Aperture at Future, we have that in kind of droves, and are able to kind of offer that to the market. Very few people I think really get it as well, which is, everyone talks about it, very few people really get it, and those that can actually utilize it and apply it in a use case scenario, they're the people you want in your business. So it kind of pivots back to finding the right talent, and it always starts with talent, right? And great talent across agencies or ad tech or publishers are the kind of people that make a difference, or the investment that makes a difference, that really makes your life a lot easier. So more automation, more specialist data sets, is definitely going to be the future to be able to jump the bridge of kind of where we're going over the next year or so.
Perfect. And Nick, I'm going to come back to you on our final question before we wrap this up. Why is it so crucial for marketers and advertisers to start exploring these cookieless opportunities today? And are there any tips or steps that they can take right now that they can sort of get ahead and get that competitive advantage?
Yeah, I think if they don't, it'll be a week before Google deprecate third-party cookies, and they'll be looking at the buying screens, wondering what to do. The cookie, I believe, will be removed in phases. So it's not going to be a kind of drop ship moment where it's just gone. So I think it will slowly start to happen. So the market and ecosystem can get used to it. But if you don't start exploring now, we've not got long left in terms of days before that process starts to happen, right? And clean room technology is a good example. It does take a bit of time to stand up between a partner and a client. It's not just a really simple PG deal or direct IO where you sign a deal and send some creative across. So I think the sooner marketers realize that they should be having conversations with ad tech companies, with agencies and publishers direct in all instances, the better they're going to be prepared to make sure they can continue to spend. Because the last thing I think we all want is for marketers to pull back ad dollars because they're not confident about where those campaigns are landing and their conversions falling off a cliff. So it's almost irresponsible for them not to start testing, I would say. So I would highly advocate it, and I'm sure all three of us are ready to have those kind of conversations with clients.
Brilliant. And Stacey, what are you sort of advising clients?
Yeah, I think ultimately marketers, they want to maintain their audience relationships. So as far as possible, we need to help them recreate that one-to-one targeting ecosystem, but also be open to cohort AI-driven solutions and not just rely on the relative safety of the walled gardens. So I think steps they can take and things that we've been doing, is performing that thorough audit of the first-party data environment, like we talked about earlier, to understand what consented data is available for use. Secondly, if they're not already, it would be speaking to their agencies and partners for analysis on the current reliance on third-party cookies. What does that look like for their current and planned activations to understand the impact of the change? And then thirdly, like we've all been saying, put that cookieless testing plan in place with your agency, with your partners for 2022, so that A/B tests can be undertaken, so that solutions can be experimented with, so that learnings can be put in place for 2023 planning, which, it might only be the start of 2022, but it's coming and that will start soon for many brands, I'm sure.
Fab. And Ben, the final word from you.
Yeah, I would just say that, those that are testing cookieless environments with us at the moment are reaping the competitive advantage. So as we mentioned, like there's advertisers that are using cookieless environments, and they're reaching new audiences. They're reaching more of the audience. As I said at the top of the session, 2/3 of the internet is with Chrome, but a third of the internet doesn't actually have third-party cookies. So we're seeing advertisers testing those environments and seeing better CPMs, better CPAs. So actually getting in early, you're reaping the kind of competitive advantage as well. So we would massively encourage advertisers to start testing and seeing how well it's going, really.
Perfect. Well, there we have it. I think the message is loud and clear. Let the cookie crumble. Don't wait around for that mad dash that's going to play out in 2023. Start testing, experimenting, optimizing. I love this idea of the real collaboration between all the different parties. Switch on to AI, explore a raft of solutions out there, and then you'll get the competitive advantage. So thank you so much to all of our speakers, Ben, Stacey, Nick, and thanks so much for the viewers for tuning in. And if all this talk of cookies has whet your appetite for more predictions, head over to the Drum Predictions 2022 Festival website and get involved on social media via hashtag the Drum Predictions. Oh, that's a lot of predictions. Thanks again, everyone, and bye for now.